Another area of focus in my work is on maintaining and managing influence, whether that's leadership or sales influence. My clients have always found it useful to think about the concept of influence as a system of three. You could call it a triad of influence. First, you have inbound influence. Messages are pouring in from so many places all over the time. Adverts and people asking you to do things. I've read a number of research reports on how many different messages are coming in, from hundreds to billions of messages that you need to filter out to make sense of your day. I don't actually know how many bits of information are coming in a day. I did try to count them. I'm a little bit ADD, and as a consequence, I find everything interesting. So I think I lost count after about 1 billion things. So you'll just have to take my word for it that there's a lot of stuff coming in. Let me not get distracted though. People will speak to you in a certain way. You see certain events. You see pictures. You interpret words which guide your decisions, your values, your beliefs, and your feelings. And that brings me to the second part of the triad of influence, which is the inner part of influence. So that is how you influence yourself, your self-influence. Because of course, you're not just a passive receiver of all of this information, are you? You have a choice what to do with it. If somebody shouts at you, you can have that immediate response of shouting back to them, or, as I think it was Carl Rogers said, that you can take a tiny little gap in between what happens on the outside and what happens on the inside and choose your responses. So that's the second part of influence. A lot of coaching, a lot of counseling is based on that. And of course, that then rolls in to the third part of influence. And the third portion of influence is outbound influence. So we started off with inbound, we have the inner influence, and we have outbound influence. So when you receive a message, it could be a threatening message, something that makes you feel upset. You have a certain response, don't you? You could shout at the person, you can put your grumpy face on, but whatever it is, you are then communicating and you're influencing that person. And so if you can change the way that you respond, you can take control of the way that you influence. And of course, that now becomes a three-piece system, doesn't it? There's no beginning or end, it's a system. So we have to leave cause and effect behind and work with how do we keep regenerating that system. Where do I see this? Especially in conflict situations. It was his fault. It's her fault. They started it. It came from up there. The workers don't do enough work. And so we have to firstly become aware of all the influences and the messages, and then start to develop some of our flexibility. And that's something that I do in my coaching and training work. That is influence.